Hi everybody, this is Damien from Legend Live. With our experience talks, we look to share tips, advice and inspiration to help you get outdoors and experience more. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Anna Riddell. Anna is the founder of Ride Out Mountain Bike Coaching, a company that provides mountain bike coaching and instruction, trail rides and adventures in Scotland. Today Anna's going to share her tips and advice for how you can get started in mountain biking. So how are you doing today, Anna?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, well, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. So looking forward to hearing a little bit more about mountain biking. So to get started, maybe you can give us a little bit of a background about yourself. Have you always been into the outdoors and getting outside?
Well, I grew up in Edinburgh, which is the capital city of Scotland. So in the city centre, I used a bike as a means of transport. I've always loved riding my bike, the freedom it gives you, the escape. But I wouldn't say I was, with growing up in a city centre environment, I wasn't really exposed on a daily basis to the outdoor environment. My parents and my family would go away on holidays to wilderness and cottages in the middle of nowhere and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't more until I came into sort of adulthood and I discovered surfing and mountain biking and hill walking that I really realized it was quite a strong passion. So with regards to the biking, I actually didn't start officially mountain biking until after I had my first child. So that was in my 30, I think it was. Yeah, just turned 30. Because I was so into surfing originally, and surfing really depends on you having to drop everything and go when the conditions are right. Because in Scotland we don't have consistent surf.
Yeah.
It's very fickle, and so I got very quickly frustrated with that as a sport, because when you have kids and babies and them to look after, I couldn't just drop everything and go. So I discovered the fact that I could plan a bike ride and I could set the time and I could go on a bike ride regardless of the weather, conditions, temperature, everything. So that became my kind of sanity fix when I was a new mum, I guess. And that's how it all started. And so from that, I started exploring my local area and then realizing how much like there was and how many places, even though I'd lived here for a few years already, I hadn't experienced. So I really loved it.
Okay. So what else about mountain biking do you really like?
I love the challenge of it. And it's a really progressive sport. So coming from surfing, which is actually very challenging to learn, mountain biking, my dog is actually speaking away. Mountain biking is because you can practice it on a consistent level. And not I'm going to go and put him in the other room.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's fine.
He's gonna distract me. Apologies for that. You'll have to edit it out.
No worries.
Yeah, one of these things. Life takes. But yeah, I guess the challenge of it, but you can progress quite quickly because you can go to a certain trail and you can practice it, and then you can go back to that trail a week later and practice the same bit. So it's actually with a bit of guidance and a bit of support, progression happens quite quickly.
Yeah.
So is that really good positive motivation feedback loop that kind of keeps you buzzed for more.
Okay. So what have been some of your most memorable moments mountain biking?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I guess the best memorable moments are when you sort of, in Scotland we have such crazy weather, so you can have those really rough days where you're out in the elements, cold, and you wonder, you question yourself why you're doing it. You like kind of we call it type 2 fun. I don't know if that's an international phrase, but it's sort of, it's fun but it's not.
Yeah.
And then with the weather being the way it is in Scotland, it will change and the sun will appear, and before you know it, you're then basking in sunshine looking at views. So those kind of moments can be really quite special, really memorable. And then I guess it's also, I've done a bit of racing as well, and memorable moments are just when you kind of go into that zone of everything coming together and just everything being fast, and suddenly you're sort of exploding out of all your own personal expectations of what you're capable of. And yeah, they're I've got a few moments like that are pretty special.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your racing. So what have been some of your achievements with mountain biking?
So I've just raced in the local Scottish scene, and it's called the Scottish Enduro Series. So that's the aspect of mountain biking that I've gone into, and I've in my age category. So I think when I started, it was 36-year-olds plus. I think that's right. For so long in Scotland, there's so few women mountain biking that you end up just being all one category, regardless of your age, which
Yeah,
is a bit like, wait a minute, I'm an old wifey and I'm racing against an 18-year-old. This is not fair. But more recently, they've actually started to bring in more age categories, which is great. And yeah, I've managed to well, we didn't race last year because of COVID, but the year before I was second overall in the whole series. So reserve champion, I guess they call it, which is
yeah,
cool.
cool.
And I've done the odd other race out with that series in Scotland. One called MacAvalanche, actually, which is you end up getting uplift up Glencoe, which is one of the mountains in Scotland, and like on a chairlift, but it's
Yeah,
like really Scottish, kind of old school, like you're holding your bike, you're going up this chairlift, wind, rain, snow, and you get to the top, and there's a mass start race. So there's just, I think there was like 240 men, 10 women, all bunched together on this patch of snow. They sound the horn, and it's the fastest to the bottom,
yeah.
and it's carnage. So that was really exciting, really good fun, really good vibes, really good atmosphere. And I managed to win the females in that, so that was cool.
Cool, brilliant. So now you've started your own kind of like coaching business. So what inspired you to start up Ride Out?
I've always done a bit of coaching, even when I was sort of just late teenager into university. I coached all sorts of various sports. I've actually, throughout my late teens, I think it was, into just heading off to uni, I was a swimming teacher. In fact, so I coached swimming for a while. And then I worked for Sports Scotland local government in a programme called Active Schools, which was encouraging more kids to get more active in their daily lifestyles. And through the way that project started, we did a lot of coaching as coordinators for that project. So in all sorts of sports again. So I've always loved coaching,
Yeah,
and particularly in sports. And then obviously falling into the passion of mountain biking, it just seemed like the natural progression. It all came to become a business was when I was working locally, and I had my second child, and then I decided to be a stay-at-home mum and focus on raising my kids, which was incredibly challenging.
yeah,
And I found it a bit like, oh no, this is maybe not for me. I really need to have something where I'm interacting with grown-ups and doing all my passions and being outside a lot. So I realized that if I could start coaching and set up my own business, I could very much plan it around my own kids and my family.
yeah.
So that's why I started the business. It started basically as coaching friends, and then I started doing it a bit more, and I realized actually maybe friends of friends would want to join in, and yeah, it just evolved. It very organically evolved,
Yeah.
and now it's my full-time occupation. So
Okay,
it's
brilliant.
amazing.
So beyond the coaching, what other things do you offer?
So I've just recently launched in partnership with a friend, Fiona Finney, Ride Out Adventures as well. So we're offering guided mountain biking adventures into the wilderness of the Scottish Cairngorms, which is an absolutely beautiful national park here in Scotland this summer. So weekend trips, holidays essentially, where people can not necessarily ride the technical scary tracks, but just use the bike as a tool to get into the most beautiful wild spaces.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of sideline to the coaching. So there's coaching and now guiding as well.
Okay, brilliant. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the destinations in Scotland, which are kind of ideal for mountain biking.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
All of Scotland, everyone yeah, you can ride a lot of places. There are the more popular areas. The Tweed Valley is always renowned because it's very well set up. It's
Yeah.
got lots of it's got the biggest area for trail centre riding. So, but in Scotland, we are so lucky that we have got the right to roam. So you can essentially hike, walk, cycle anywhere you want as long as you act responsibly. So we have freedom to go biking wherever, and in the nature of the country, in the sense that there's a lot of wilderness and there's a lot of walking paths, and you can bike anywhere. You
Yeah.
can really explore anywhere. So, but the big areas are the Tweed Valley, the Cairngorms, the Northwest. Aberdeenshire's growing as an area now. There's yeah, you can bike a lot of, yeah, all over
Yep.
Scotland.
Okay. So mountain
In a
biking.
whole country in itself, it's a mecca.
Okay. So Scotland. So you're doing a good job for Scottish tourism now. So everyone, if you like mountain biking, head over to Scotland to give it a go.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Like, Scotland is an amazing place. I don't like, I speak from my heart with that respect. You know, it's wild, and I've done a lot of traveling myself, and I actually like feel quite proud to now be settled in Scotland. The weather's crap, it's rubbish, but if you can kind of get over that and make sure you've got the right equipment to cope with that, then it is just the most incredible place because it's so quiet,
Yeah.
and you can really get into the wild and not meet other people, you know, and that's quite special. So in that respect, with surfing even as well, like, you know, surfed in a lot of iconic places around the world, and here in Scotland, sometimes if you get lucky, you get the best waves that you could get anywhere in the world, but you're doing it on your own, you know, or
Yeah.
you're doing it with a couple of friends. You're not in a queue and a lineup panicking that you're going to be paddling around for an hour and a half and not even get one wave because
Yeah.
there's just so much competition out there. It's here, it's your, you know, it's what's holding you back getting the waves is your fitness.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's super cool in that way.
Awesome. So what is it about mountain biking you love to share with other people?
um I guess the sort of the joy and the buzz you get from it. I think in modern world now, we're all so busy and stressed and got so much going on that we need to worry about, and once you kind of sling your leg over a bike and you start mountain biking, you can't be worrying about your day-to-day life anymore because you're focusing on how you're going to ride over that rock or that route or negotiate that tight turn. Or so I think it's a really mindful activity to do.
Yeah.
You know, it really focuses you in on the here and now, and it's it's exercise, so all the benefits that go with that. It's outdoors. You connect with other like-minded people. We connect with nature.
Yeah.
It's just this. There's so many things that I absolutely love about it. But yeah, the joy you get from that, and the buzz and the connection. Yeah, the connection's pretty big with regard to connecting to yourself and connecting to the other people that do it potentially with you, and also connecting to your environment around you. You know,
Yeah.
you kind of open your eyes to actually, you know, nature and yeah,
No, cool. Oh,
stressor, that's for sure.
awesome. So what's on your personal mountain biking bucket list?
Oh gosh, I call it a bucket list.
Okay.
I would actually, I because I turned 40 this year, and before COVID hit, I was very keen to head to Morocco and go biking there because I've been to Morocco a couple of times, and
Yeah.
for surfing, and I've always just had a draw. I love the country, and I had a draw to go biking in the Atlas Mountains. So that would be top of my list for a bucket list, or bucket list. And also just to carry. I think I don't really have anything else that springs to mind. There's a lot of places in Scotland that I still want to explore by bike that I've not done, because obviously when starting biking, it was when I had my kids.
Yeah.
So um, all the big, longer trip kind of adventures haven't quite happened yet because, you know, I've needed to be around. So yeah,
So watch your space. There's more to
Yeah,
come.
watch this space. Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, now let's get started and we can talk a little bit about mountain biking and share some of your ideas, tips, and advice for how people can get started. So, firstly, maybe you can give us a little bit of a background about mountain biking and the different types of or ways you can go mountain biking.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a very open question. There's all sorts of, I mean, as long as you've got a bike, I guess. Mountain biking itself is you've got a wider tire base, knobbly tires, as opposed to your road bike or your cross bike. Um, you've got full suspension bikes, you've got hardtail bikes, you've got all the different types of equipment. But I guess as long as you've got a bike and you've got a mountain bike, you can start accessing your local area and trails, whatever they might be, I guess, because I'm presuming that the listeners are from all over the world. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, yeah.
So with mountain biking itself, you have like the more endurance, kind of like a longer distance, kind of like trail riding. And then you
Yeah.
also have more technical, kind of like downhill type mountain biking as well, don't you?
Yeah, and you've got downhill mountain biking, you've got cross country mountain biking, which is more your endurance stuff. You've got adventure kind of racing riding, which is just mixing it all together. And then in between all that, in a racing perspective, you've got enduro racing, which combine kind of it's an endurance day, but actually has technical descents as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many different ways you could class mountain biking. So it's not like people say, oh, I don't really mountain bike, I just ride my bike through the forest. But in my opinion, that is mountain biking. If you're off road and you're on a path and you're riding a mountain bike, you're mountain biking, you know.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be flying down an incredibly steep mountain to be mountain biking, in my opinion. That
Yeah.
just, that's just the cool idea of it. But anyone can enjoy just riding their bike through a forest and experiencing it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good lead on to the next question. So mountain biking, it's accessible to everyone. Any kind of limitations?
um I guess there's adaptations that need to happen if people have physical limitations.
Yeah.
But no, like there's the advent now of, we've not actually mentioned it yet, but e-bikes. So if you are worried about fitness, e-bikes are exploding now. So you've got a bike with an electric motor that can help you get up the hills.
Yeah.
But that's not a negative. I think that's a real positive for making mountain biking more accessible. And it's not just the less fit that are using e-bikes, it's the athletes are training on them because they can get more descent runs in, more laps, and
Yeah.
their bikes are heavier themselves and they are really physical to ride, so there's a lot of gains to be had. So but no, I think mountain biking is available to anybody who can pedal a bike.
Yeah.
And yeah, as long as you've learned that as a child, then, or you can learn that as an adult, why not?
Yeah. Off you go. So what about age? Like, so a number of 40-year-olds probably have reached 40 and are going, well, mountain biking, that's just for young people. Obviously we don't believe that's the case, but what would you have to say to them?
It's absolutely not. That's just a perception. I have a lot of clients who are 40 plus. I think my oldest client I've had for learning more technical riding has been 67, which is super awesome. It's never too late. It's just age shouldn't be a barrier. If you're wanting to be physically active, then mountain biking, I think, is a really good option. Um, I just find, I sometimes think of it as the lazy way to exercise because you get to sit down.
Yeah.
Like once you're descending and technically riding maybe steeper, more technical terrain, you have to stand on your pedals and get up out the saddle. But to enjoy an adventure ride, you're sitting in a saddle,
Yeah.
just pedaling. It's a can be a relaxing way to exercise. Um, but no, mountain biking is for everyone, and I feel that if I want to be riding a bike until I drop, so I hope I'll be doing that right the way through. So.
Yeah. No, awesome. So to get started, any kind of like beyond obviously being able to ride a bike, any kind of initial skills or competencies you need?
Um, I would say the most important thing is obviously sourcing a bike, finding somewhere safe to go and get started. So get started on flat forest trails is the best environment to put yourself into, because then you're just negotiating the type of surface you're riding and going around turns and getting used to reminding yourself how to balance on a bike essentially.
Yeah.
The next best thing to learn is how to the position to ride when you start to go down a hill. So not to stay seated in your saddle, but also to stand up on your level pedals and get yourself ready for sort of being relaxed and loose to descend on a mountain bike. So that would be the first thing I would sort of top tips I would say for getting started. But it's one of these things that actually don't kind of create a list of what you need to do to get started. Just get started.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost kind of like you could give yourself all sorts of excuses of needing certain things or being able to be in a certain environment, but actually if you just get started, then the rest of it will start to take care of itself.
Yeah. No,
That initial
definitely.
hurdle, try it. Try it
Yeah.
first.
So what about challenges first time mountain biker are likely to experience? So like everything when you're learning, there's certain things that you need to kind of like get used to. So what is it for mountain biking?
I'd say for new people coming into the sport, it's the overwhelm of information out there and perception of you've got to be this, that, and the next thing, you've got to have all the certain gear or whatever. And also it's not financially, it can be quite an expensive sport. Bikes can cost an arm and a leg, and then all the gear you need along with it. But that's all perception. You can
Yeah.
find ways doing that. The other thing I'd say as well is comfort. You know, if someone's not ridden a bike for 10 years and they decide to mountain bike, don't maybe go out and do an 8-hour ride sitting in a saddle. You're going to be sore the next day.
Yeah.
So finding ways to maybe just drip feed it into yourself and just, you know, make sure you're comfortable, so that the enjoyment factor is high. And if you're enjoying it, then it's no chore at all. You just be figuring out how you can get your next fix.
Yeah.
It's an addictive sport, that's for sure.
Cool. So as you mentioned that there are some things you will need to get started with mountain biking. Like number one is obviously the mountain bike. So what other kind of basic gear, should someone consider having if they're intending to get into mountain biking?
Okay, so a definite is your bike and a helmet. So you can't really, I wouldn't advise riding at all without a helmet. So safety, you know, you just don't want to risk hurting yourself seriously. And it happens.
Yeah.
Accidents happen. I've had the worst crashes like outside my back door. You know, just mucking about on my bike and stupid things happen. So helmet, a bike. I'd recommend some sort of gloves and eye protection as well. That's like your sort of standard basics. If you're going to fall, you're going to put your hands out. Gloves are really good for protecting your hands. So gloves, some sort of glasses, sunglasses, to protect your eyes for, you know, low-lying branches.
Yeah.
And then just a basic rucksack to carry your food and snacks, because every bike ride needs a snack break, in my opinion. So water, food and snacks, and then just clothing that's going to be suited to wherever you're riding. So, I mean, I guess in sunnier climates, you're thinking about sun cream and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Here in Scotland, it's the raincoat, it's the midgie cream, and yeah, spare jumper in case the weather changes. And then obviously you've got your essential tools as well, for if you get a puncture,
Yeah.
puncture repair kind of thing. Mobile phones also probably one of the biggest safety musts. If you do get into difficulty or you run out of food, or you know, you've got someone you can call to get you out of trouble. So
Okay. So what are some of the potential risk factors going mountain biking that you should, and what kind of precautions could you take?
I'd say having the right equipment, knowing where you're going, as well. It's really important to sort of have a rough plan of where you're going. Not to overdo it. Like keep things within your means.
Yeah.
It's always advised, like, go with someone, as much as it is amazing to experience these things on your own, but when you're first starting out, it's always good to share that experience, and that reduces the risk of anything. If you do fall off, then someone's there.
Yeah.
I would say, what else? Yeah, so being prepared essentially, and taking the right equipment, and yeah, just acting responsible, like not riding where you're not meant to ride, or just, yeah, keeping within the rules of wherever you're exploring and things like that.
Okay. So say someone now is kind of like ready to go to the next level when they're going mountain biking. So they're probably looking to get some kind of coaching or instruction. So firstly, how do you go about selecting the right person to get instruction and coaching? And then part two, what kind of things will that coach or instructor coach you in?
Okay, so firstly, how do you go about getting the right coach? Was that the question? Yeah.
Yes.
I guess that's dependent on your local, wherever you're geographically located. A bit of Google researching, word of mouth as well, mountain biking forums, whatever. Some areas will have loads of coaches that are available, and others will have less. So I guess it's just getting the vibe from somebody, because coaching, in any sport, it's quite personal.
Yeah.
And a coach is not just going to give you like the knowledge and the tools of what to do when, but you're also going to form a relationship of trust, and you're also going to want them to instill confidence, energy, enthusiasm, support. So all those kind of psychological factors as well. So ideally, you want to get on with them, don't you?
Yeah.
So you want to have fun. Like, at the end of the day, we're doing sport for fun. So I guess it's trying to scope out the different personalities, because every coach will have a different personality. They'll have a different focus. They'll have maybe a different vibe. So
Yeah.
it's trying to pick up on that and see what works for you.
Okay. And then the second part of the question relates to what kind of instruction, like for you when you're training or coaching people, what are the kind of specific things people come to you for additional training and?
So, like, if people are coming to start sort of developing their mountain biking, I would always start with things like your body positioning on the bike. So making sure that when you are descending down a trail, you're standing on your bike correctly. You're standing on
Yeah.
your pedals, where you're weighting the bike, because that really affects your balance. And if you're off balance, then you're not stable. If you're not stable, then you're not confident. It all
Yeah.
kind of has a. So somebody will come to, I'm just really nervous, and I always feel so scared when I'm going down the hill, and then you see them and they're actually like, heavily leaning on their hands, and you're like, well, that's because your weight's in the wrong place, and so it's just these really obvious fundamentals of riding that I would focus on for not just beginners, but actually going up to advanced riders. We sometimes go back to basics and just
Yeah.
have a look at how you're riding, where you're positioned. And then I would bring in factors like braking. How do you brake? We all know how to stop on a mountain bike, but what are we actually doing? Are we changing our body position when we brake to, build in more grip and build in more stability and have more balance once again? And then there's other skills that, like, how do you go around a corner?
Yeah.
And how can you do that, maintaining a smooth arc without losing speed and things like that. Riding over obstacles, again, you need to change your body position. There's just endless skills, I would say, that you can start working from to build that confidence, and with the confidence comes more enjoyment and progression. So it
Yeah.
all kind of but I'd say getting coaching is the best investment after getting a bike.
Yeah.
So forget about the fancy cool, like, riding jersey or whatever. Go and get some coaching and understand what you're meant to do when, just the foundations of that, and then get your jersey and go out riding.
Okay. So, well, that's a good lead into also choice of the bike. So if you're just starting out, what are some tips and pointers to kind of look out for your initial mountain biking bike? Like, as you said, there's multiple choices, but if you're just getting started, what would be, a good thing to look out for in a basic bike?
Yeah, so I would ask yourself a couple of questions when you're looking at getting your first bike. Is your budget, that's, and also what kind of riding you're going to be doing, like where you're going to be riding on a more regular basis, and realistically what kind of riding you are going to be doing now and progressing to in the next 2 to 3 years. And being that's quite hard because you're kind of looking at a crystal ball,
Yeah,
but you'll have some sort of answer within that, and from that then you can get a bike that's going to be suited to that terrain. There's no point buying a downhill bike if you've got no intention of going racing down mountains.
yeah,
Downhill bikes are designed to go fast downhill, but they're not very well designed to pedal up a hill. So yeah, I would consider those two things as your mainstay. I would speak to your local bike shop. They'll have a wealth of understanding and knowledge and can advise you. And then after that, your next most important thing is making sure you get a bike that fits you.
yeah,
Like, so many people that buy bikes because they think they look cool, or they're told it's a bargain, or it's a good deal, and if it's the wrong size, it's never going to be a good bike. So it has to be the right sizing. And again, professionals in the field of that own bike shops, or even if you're buying things online, there's guidance, there's information. So just pay attention to the sizing. It really does make a big difference to how the bike feels.
yeah, no, definitely. So how long would it take you to get to a certain level of skill or competency in mountain biking? If you're going out at least once a week, so how long do you think to kind of like get up to a certain level?
But it's a tough one because that depends on fitness and strength and
Yeah,
confidence, and um, yeah, everyone's so different. I have some clients that come weekly and the progression's a wee bit more tentative and
yeah,
slow because they're cautious, and then other people that come and chuck themselves, and they progress a bit quicker. But I would say it's, as far as sports go, it's really fast progression.
yeah,
If you're comparing it to something like skiing or surfing or some of your other outdoor adventurous sports, I think mountain biking is a really fast progressive sport because you can practice. And it's time on the bike that once you've got the fitness and the strength, and then just building that experience of what you're doing, where you're riding and how you're riding, you're going to progress pretty quickly, I would
yeah,
say, to be able to go out and enjoy adventures. I mean, I guess it depends what your goal is. If you're wanting to start mountain biking and then be able to do a race in a year's time, then that's not unrealistic. That's possible. It
yeah,
depends on a few things. Or if your goal is just to be able to experience wild places and adventure with friends and family, then again, that can be a matter of sort of a couple of months of just getting yourself enough kind of time on the bike and practice. Some people that are really sporty and like you know have experience in other outdoor sports, I guess, we could come along to a day's course, get all the foundations, and then boom, they're off. Like that's it.
yeah,
They've got enough knowledge, enough understanding how to keep themselves safe, and how to ride things well, that they're gonna be able to just head off and enjoy mountain biking immediately. So it's so
awesome.
dependent. It's quite
Yeah,
tricky tackling that.
no, understood. So to close out on getting started on mountain biking, what would you say is the number one reason anyone should try mountain biking at least once in their life?
Oh gosh, because there's no other sensation than like the feeling you get when you're riding a bike. It's just something, I don't know, maybe it's a nostalgic childhood kind of memory or something, but when you set off and leave your office or your desk or your home, whatever, and that freedom and escape, wind in your hair kind of feeling, it's I think it's quite hard to describe, actually. It's such a good sensation. The joy and the buzz and the escape, it's just brilliant. So you should definitely try it.
Very good.
Slightly biased though, but hey.
Of course, but no, can agree with you. It's going out on a bike, be it a road bike or a mountain bike, is a pretty cool experience. So
Yeah.
you get to see a lot more things, don't you? So like
You do get
walking
to see
takes
a
you a
lot.
long time to get to a destination. So and in mountain biking, you get to see more things, and it's a more It's a good way to experience a lot and cover a lot of distance, different things, all in a very short space of time. So it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
So let's change direction a little bit. So what's your definition of adventure?
Adventure. I would say adventure is when you're heading out on a challenge and you actually don't know what the outcome is. You know, and that is quite easy to achieve in Scotland because of the weather. It's so
Yeah,
unpredictable. So you kind of head out not knowing if you're going to complete what you're going to setting out to do, and you've got to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C of various options of how things might go. To me, that's an adventure. It's like the unknown, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's not predictable. It can be planned, and it can be planned to try and make it as achievable as possible. But when you get to that point, it's like, oh, I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to do it, or if all these variables are going to slot into place. That means you're having an adventure.
awesome.
I would
So
always say to my kids, they're like, Mom, you know where you're going? I'm like, nope, but it's an adventure. So it's like, I think that's why I came up with that answer in my head.
no, it's a good one. No, it's a very good one. So that's a good lead into the next part of the question, which is, why do you think everyone should include more time outdoors, adventure, and experiences in their life?
I think it just allows us to connect to our souls. It's like part of our psyche. Like we're animals at the end of the day, and we're not designed to be sat indoors and like looking at screens. And life is for experiencing like the real world. And I think that's why we need that in our life more than anything, especially through this very challenging time we've all had with COVID. It's really taken away a lot of freedom for people, and I think more than ever people are now needing to get back into wildness and to feel that freedom that we have. Yeah, it's incredibly important. I think it's more important than people realize, and you don't realize you're not doing it until you start doing it, and then you realize that there's a whole other side to your personality and your being that was being neglected.
Yeah,
So yeah,
no, awesome
it's huge.
answer. So being someone who's recently turned 40, there's obviously a lot of, I'm 51, so still got a ways to go. So, but there's a lot of people who view it negatively or with some kind of anxiety. Obviously, that's probably not us too. So what would you say to these people?
As it's negative when you turn 40. Oh, life's just starting. I think you start to give a shit a lot less and actually realize that life's ticking on quickly, so you're running out of time if you don't start doing the stuff you really want to do. It's so important to start prioritizing what you want to experience, and that it's not impossible. You just need to prioritize it and make it important enough to say no to certain other things. We've only got so many hours in a day, and we all need to work and care for kids or whatever. So yeah, life's just starting really. It's just like, as my kids are getting older, I'm getting a wee bit more freedom, and just really starting to see that actually there's a lot of fun to be had.
Yeah, no, very good. So what's your definition of living your best life, or what I call legendary life?
Oh, your legendary life. I think that's just being true to yourself, like being your authentic self, and not being like forced into trying to be what either you feel that society has decided you should be, or I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I just think living true to who you really are deep down. Like,
Yeah,
if you can kind of figure that out. I'm still figuring it out, but um to have a legendary life is to do as much as possible to really just feel like, yeah, you, I guess. Yeah.
no,
That's
very good answer.
I
No, like
think you should have
most,
sent me these questions beforehand. I could have had a more in-depth thought. Think about them.
I wanted to make it kind of like real, so like didn't want you
Yeah.
to prepare. So But no, it's a very good answer, because a lot of us aren't living authentically. So, actually, to live your best life, you have to find out what's important to you. So it's a personal answer to everyone. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's like you got to work it out, and it's really a journey, isn't it? So it's not
Yeah,
like day one, what the answer is. It's kind of like an evolution, but what we have to kind of fight off is all these conflicting things like family, community, society, or telling us lots of things. So we go off on all these tangents, but we're not true to who we are. But being true to who we are is going to lead us to making the decisions that give us the kind of life we're really interested in, or what we
yeah,
should be living. So no, your answer is very good.
yeah. And
So
the more you do as well, like when you start trying, so if you're inspired by something, you say, oh, I'd like to try it. If you do it, then that opens doors to the next thing that you never even considered. So where your legendary life, if you were to sit and think, what's my legendary life going to look like? If you were to write that down on a piece of paper and then come back to it 10 years time, it would be like something completely different. You're like, gosh, I didn't even know that. I didn't know I was going to be a mountain biker. I didn't plan that. It's just like, it just evolves. Like, so you just, doors open because you try things that you like.
yeah,
You try and do stuff and meet people that kind of inspire you to try something different that you've maybe never even considered. So yeah.
yeah, no, cool. Well, to finish up, this is the final question. So what are 3 life lessons you've learned in life that you think would be of value to share with others?
3 life lessons. I guess it comes similar to what I've said previously, is to be authentic, especially in the modern world of social media and stuff. So just try and be who you are. Um, don't wait, don't wait till you're ready is another one. So, oh, I'm going to start mountain biking once I'm fit, like that. No, 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 no. Just start it. You'll get fit you'll get fit as a consequence of starting it. Like, I think if you wait until you're ready for something, you'll be waiting forever.
Yeah,
And then connected to that as well is perfect doesn't exist. Nothing's ever perfect. You could plan the best adventure in the world. It's never going to work out perfect. So yeah, if you can let go of that perfection idea, the perfect holiday or the perfect experience or the perfect, it doesn't exist.
yeah,
So there's
no,
beauty in imperfection. That's a bit
definitely,
cheesy, isn't it?
definitely. Awesome. Well, Anna, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I'm sure a lot of people will find some inspiration and ideas, and if they haven't considered mountain biking, they're certainly going to give it a try now. So if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about you and also ride out mountain bike coaching, how can they find you online?
So the website for Ride Out is rideoutcoaching.co.uk, and I'm on Instagram as well, Ride Out Coaching, and I've just launched Ride Out Adventures, which is also on Instagram, Facebook as well. So they're probably the best ways to get in touch. Yeah, drop us a message and I can point you in the direction of mountain biking experiences and coaching and stuff. And yeah, come to Scotland. Get a raincoat. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Oh, no, thanks for having me on. And yeah, I look forward to listening and watching some other interviews as well. So that's cool.
Awesome.
Keep doing what you're doing, inspiring us oldies, hey? Life's just beginning.
Very good. Thank you.